What's up, everybody? I'm back again, Phoenix Phoenix Night Driver, and I'm here to talk about a few things that are kind of AB5 related, but I feel like they're more rideshare in general related, but a lot of it's going to relate to AB5. And a couple other thoughts that I've been seeing pop around on social media and in the news and whatnot. Since I'm still new to this, I've got paper notes, so if I'm going to look down a couple of times and that'll be what it is. Sorry about that. Anyway, the first thing that I wanted to talk about is rideshare driving versus cab companies. The concept of rideshare has been around almost for as long as cars have been a pretty public commodity. And even the concept of ride sharing and getting paid for it, there were times when even the government encouraged people to, rent out the back seat of their vehicle or the seat of their vehicle in order to reduce the amount of gas that people were spending and all of that kind of stuff. And I'm going to bring that point up later when I talk about something else. But the point is, rideshare driving has been around for a long time. And even the idea of getting paid for it. I know that my time in the military, we used to give people, $5, $10, as much as $20 to drive you to the nightclubs, the bars, the airport for whatever reason. And I know that that's happened before with, you got a coworker, you guys live kind of the same place. Your coworker gives you $5. In fact, my very first experience ever in my life with rideshare driving was when I first started going to high school. I had a friend who was old enough to drive, but I was not. And my parents suggested that I pay him to give me a ride to school every day since we went to the same school and we had almost the same schedule. So that's what I did. I gave him, I think it was like $5 a week, and that was it. But that was ride sharing. So this concept has been around for a while. The idea that it's just you using your vehicle and getting a little bit extra compensation or a lot of extra compensation depending on the type of vehicle you had. My friend in high school had a big truck, so it's probably only a little bit of compensation. But the idea has been out there for a long time. However, this has become changed with the development of apps, introducing a method that people can get on their phone and see who's close by, know exactly how long it's going to take. They can go anywhere, and this is available, almost anywhere, but this is available to them. This has changed the rideshare concept. I think, personally, I feel like it's permanent. I've talked to a lot of passengers about this, and they have said they never want to go back to taxis. They never want to go back to having to make a phone call and wait at the bar or wait wherever they are for who knows how long or trying to schedule it. They like the idea that they show up at a place, boom, they pull up their phone, they get the ride. So this is something that has changed entirely now that we have the introduction of apps to help with the rideshare system. The other thing that has changed, and I feel like this is meant to be a permanent change, but this is what I'm talking about when I say the future of rideshare may end up being back in the past, because the future should be, in my opinion, and note I'm saying this is my opinion, the future should be that ordinary people can sign up for the driver's side of the app and put people in their vehicle and get some money for that. And at the same time, it should be that ordinary people can also decide that they want to put people in their car all the time and make money and be able to pay their expenses, your rent, buy food, groceries, just pay for things and be able to live off of that. I think that is actually where the future of rideshare should go, but it may not. And this is where AB5 comes in, and this is where I believe it's New Hampshire that already has a law in place that I feel is taking that concept and regressing it, putting it back into the past where you only give rides for money in your car if it's a coworker who gives you cash on the side. And the reason I feel that way is because AB5 essentially turns ride sharing into a taxi cab service. When you have a company that has employees, and those employees, their job is to give rides and bring money into the company when they give those rides, that's a taxi service. And the two, especially the way I just described it, I know they sound very similar. Because it's like, well, Uber makes money off of rideshare drivers, and that's true. But the difference is, it's not necessarily your job, it is your business as a rideshare driver to provide those rides. Now, before I go further, I want to say this, and this is something I'm going to bring up again, but I want to say this up front. Rideshare drivers need more. Uber and Lyft, and probably other companies, Uber and Lyft are pretty much the only services in our market except for Veo, which I'll get into that in a whole other video, why I'm not signed up for Veo. And I'm probably going to try again, but that process, different video. The point is, Uber and Lyft do make money from us as rideshare drivers, but it is our business. And once we turn ourselves into employees of them, we lose a lot. A lot of people have been trying to say, oh, well, you can still be flexible. Talk to cab drivers, ask cab drivers, how flexible are you really allowed to be? Can you work 70 hours a week if you choose? Or does the cab company have to give you overtime? Can you choose that you want to work in certain areas versus other areas? I would say that's not the case here in Arizona, because I know that cabs don't show up in certain areas. And a lot of times, those are the areas where I make money. And you wouldn't think that people would, because they seem like they're out of the way. They're out of, there isn't a lot going on there. But the thing about rideshare is that people need rides all the time and from almost everywhere. And those people are willing to pay more than what even the minimum is that Uber and Lyft give the drivers. We should be allowed to choose when and choose where we're going to do those rides. But some changes need to happen. And I don't feel that AB5 is making the right changes. I feel like AB5 is essentially telling Uber and Lyft, you guys are cab companies, act like cab companies. And people don't want that. Passengers don't want cab companies. They want something better. That's why they choose Uber. That's why they choose Lyft. They want better than what cab companies have been able to provide. What cab companies, the standard that cab companies have set is not good enough anymore. Now that people have had a taste of the rideshare app industry, they're always going to want it. And the idea is, well, we need to still protect drivers and protect passengers. There's a lot that still needs to be done. But the idea that just turning Uber and Lyft into companies where all their drivers are employees, that is essentially setting the rideshare industry back. It is saying, we don't want to go forward, get it back in the past, become a cab company, become Uber taxi service, Lyft taxi service, and do what those taxi companies have already done. And that's not what people want. That's not what drivers want. Drivers want to be compensated. You don't want to be spending 4 hours, 8 hours a day, 12 hours, whatever you're driving in a day. You don't want to be spending that and have, only $25 to show for it. So how does that get balanced out? Here's what my suggestion is. I've seen some attempts at this on social media, but I haven't really seen a real effort. I feel like, well, let me just say what it is. Excuse me. I believe that what we need as rideshare drivers is we need a guild. Call it an independent contractor union if you want, whatever. But we need a guild. A guild is a system that is very similar to unions, but it is set up for independent contractors. It's set up for people who are going to work but decide for themselves what jobs they're going to take, when they're going to take them, and what their rates will be. And that is something that I feel will really help out. For example, there is an industry already that has this in place, and I really do feel that the rideshare industry can learn a lot from it, and that industry is the movie making industry. If you think about your big studios, they make a ton of money. A ton of money. They've gotten good at this. But they employ non-employees all the time. Whenever a movie is made, your actors are not employees. Your crew is almost never employees. Your employees are maybe your producers and the people that work at the studio to liaise with the production people. But all of the people that are in the production, that are on set, that edit the movie, all of that stuff is done through independent contractors who are protected and watched for by their guilds. You've got your Screen Actors Guild, which everybody knows about. You've got your Writers Guild, your Producers Guilds, your Directors Guilds. You've got all sorts of guilds. You have guilds for your grips and for your gaffers and for all of the people that are behind the camera. They have guilds. Those guilds are there to ensure that when these independent contractors that are part of these guilds come to do work, that they're still taken care of. Because when you're working, you don't have time to also begin negotiating for, hey, I don't think this is enough. We don't each individually, however many drivers, let's say there's 10,000 rideshare drivers in the city of Phoenix area. We don't have time for every single one of us, 10,000 people, to contact Lyft and say, hey, we need to have the minimum rate go up. We need to have our per mileage go up or our per minute go up. Maybe sometimes some of us do, but all of us don't have that time at the same time. And even if we did, we are all going to make those statements separately in a way that is going to seem like we each have 10,000 different things that we want. And nothing is going to really, truly come out and be, hey, this is what needs to be changed. That's why we have a guild. If we had a guild that operated the same way as the guilds that they have for movies and for the film industry and the television industry, those guilds could be doing that, and they could say, look, I am representing 10,000 drivers. And those 10,000 drivers say they want to be paid this much money at a minimum for whatever ride they give. They want to be paid this much per mile. And if you don't do that, then here's what's going to happen. And that's a big question. Well, what do we have? We can just not drive, right? That's the only option that seems to be available. That's another reason why we need guilds, because they can take that time and say, how else can we make it beneficial to Lyft and Uber and whatever other rideshare platform is out there to meet what our drivers need? Can we threaten them? Can we cajole them? Like whatever it is, that is what the guild is there for. They're the ones that come up with the ideas. And then they present those ideas to the guild. The guild says, yes, I like these ideas. And then that information gets moved forward. You have those advocates, but you don't have to be an employee. You still are going to have some requirements, but those requirements are going to be significantly more flexible. Those requirements may be, you just have to drive for X amount of time. As long as you put in 20 hours where it shows the apps, or as long as you give 50 rides in a week or whatever, they can set what those requirements will be. And then you now know what you have to do. You can decide how and when you're going to do that. I know, for example, let's use an Uber, the quests that they do right now. And they say, hey, if you need to hit 40 if you hit 40 rides this week or 50 rides or 80 rides, whatever they say, if you hit this many rides this week, then you're going to get paid this much extra. Well, that's great. Now I know if I want that bonus, if I want that benefit, I need to do X amount of rides. But they're not coming out, oh, also make sure that when you give those rides, that you only do it from 9 to 5 on Monday through Friday. Because for me, as the Phoenix night driver, obviously I do most of my driving at nighttime. So that's something that I need that kind of flexibility. I'm going to apologize right now if you hear some music in the background. I've got an ice cream man going by the apartment, and I'm shooting from my apartment because this is still a brand new channel and thing. So sorry about that extra music. But anyways, the flexibility that we want, the ability to make changes, that is something we need more of. We need the ability to say, hey, if you're part of this guild, you're going to set your per mileage rate at this amount and no less. But you can set it at more. Or they don't even have to say that. They can say, hey, it is the opinion of the riders of the guild that the per mileage rate should be this much. When you use your app, it's going to default at this. However, we have fought on your behalf. And if you feel like the places you want to drive at should have a lower per mileage, you can adjust that individually. But the apps are going to auto default to the amount that we have declared. And there's a lot of advantages to this. If we had a driver's guild, then that driver's guild could set up a system to vet drivers, make sure that drivers are safe, make sure that drivers are the type of people that will not commit the crimes that have gotten drivers in the news lately. That is something that can then be put onto your driver profile and something that can be fought for so that when a passenger is looking and deciding, well, which driver am I going to go with? They can see, oh, hey, this one is part of that driver's guild. That means they're probably safer. That means that I can count on them to give me a fair rate. Yeah, they're a little bit more than this other place, but I'm willing to pay that because they're safer. I know it's fair. I know that they're going to be clean. I know that they have standards, and I'm willing to pay a little bit more for those standards. So there's a lot that these guilds can offer that still allows drivers to have the flexibility. It still fights to keep that flexibility and fights to let drivers do the things that we still cannot do. Set our own mileage rates, set our own per minute rates, decide how much our minimum fares are going to be, decide what surges are going to happen. And they can fight on our behalf to say, hey, look, Uber, Lyft, you're only going to get this much of a fare. You will not be getting 50%. You want a surge in area? That's fine. You're still only going to get 20%, 25%, whatever the number is that guild depends on or settles on. So this is something that I feel like has not been brought up enough. Like I said before, I've seen it somewhat on social media. In fact, on Twitter, I even follow some entity that claims that they are a rideshare alliance or something like that. But the fact of the matter is, I have yet to see a really strong showing of rideshare associations, of guilds, whatever you want to call it. I've yet to see a really strong showing. And I don't know, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know what it will take for us to get to that point. But I do know that it seems to me that that is going to be better for drivers and for the future of rideshare. It will be better because it will allow us to continue going forward in the future. It will also allow for more competition. If we don't feel that Uber and Lyft or whoever is in your market is doing enough of a job to be beneficial to the rideshare drivers, then these associations can be the ones that are out there hunting for other apps, other companies that are doing a better job of it and encouraging them to come to your market. I know that there's a lot of places in the US that have other than Uber and Lyft, and I'd like to see those places in Phoenix. For whatever reason, they're not here. Maybe if there was a drivers association here fighting for us, they would say to them, hey, you seem to be better than what we have. We'd like you to come here because you're going to create a better competition for what we have. And when you come here, we're going to encourage our members to sign up for you and to utilize your service to do the job that they're doing. So those are my thoughts on that. I'm just going to check my notes here real quick, see if I hit everything. So give me just a moment. I believe I hit all of those notes. One other thing that I did want to bring up, it's not AB5 related, but it is an argument that I see coming up all the time about rideshare. And that is, well, rideshare is just putting more cars on the road. If you remember earlier in the stream, I was talking about how the government used to encourage people, especially during wartime, to share rides and even to have people pay them to share rides. And the reason was they knew that if people were out there getting paid to give other people rides, then the number of cars on the road would go down. The number of people consuming fuel would go down. And there's an argument right now that, oh, rideshare is putting more cars on the road. It's putting more people behind the wheel. And it seems like that a lot of times, especially when you're talking about places that are over congested, that have too many people. It seems like that in New York and Boston and all those places where there's just, it used to always be cabs because no one had a car. No one used their car. And now people are using their cars again because they want to make money. They don't want to pay money. So what we're facing is this concept, which is very localized, is making people think, oh, well, that's the case. And I want to point something out, something that I noticed over the Christmas holiday and actually this past weekend while going to the airport here in Phoenix. And what I noticed was this. People were going to the airport to pick up other people who had flown in. And these were not rideshare drivers. Rideshare in Phoenix has a whole other section where you do pickups. And it's close to where you could get picked up by your dad or your mom or your brother or your best friend or whatever. But it is a separate place for rideshare. And those spots, those rideshare spots, they do get congested sometimes. But never to the level that I have seen during the Christmas, Thanksgiving, and Valentine's Day holidays, which is backed up for a long distance. Hold on a sec. Can you turn your volume down? Thanks. Those people backed up for a long distance, and those weren't rideshare drivers. And they're picking up people. And even though the rideshare portion is smaller than the total distance of the terminal, where all of these other non-rideshare, non-cab companies, just basically people with their own vehicles picking up people they know, they were backed up. They were backed up so much they were causing problems for people trying to merge, trying to cross, trying to go to a different terminal. But the rideshare area was not causing, even though the rideshare area was congested, it was not causing the same level of congestion. Like there was some stoppage because it's a very small area for rideshare at the Phoenix airport, but it was not nearly the level of what the past people picking up their friends and their family was at. And think about this from a numbers standpoint. If you have everybody driving themselves places, then that's a lot of cars on the road. But if you have some people driving everybody else and just shuttling them to and from the places they're trying to go, that does cut down on the number of cars. Right now, what we're facing is a lot of people are saying, hey, I can make some extra money or I can make a permanent ride. And so there's been an influx. There are more cars at the moment. But it is still a fairly new industry. If you think about this, this has only been around for a little bit of time in the grand scheme of things. And so there are adjustments that need to be made. One of those adjustments that I had, that somebody suggested, it was on Twitter, I believe it was look to encourage your city, your states, your counties, whatever, to have bars and places that serve alcohol decrease or entirely eliminate their parking lots. If you think about this, and this was a good argument, and this is a very raw suggestion, so there may be some things that still need to be thought about it, but think about a bar, just a straight up bar for a moment. If it is a bar, Why do you need parking lots? You're not allowed to drive afterwards. And if you have a designated driver, that's great. But here's the problem with that concept. You all know, we all know lots of people who go, I'm the designated driver, and then show up and they still drink. And maybe they say, well, we'll be here for 3 hours, so I'm going to have one beer now, and then I'll be fine. But then one beer turns into 2, turns into 3, and maybe they don't start drinking that beer. We have all known a lot of people, and I'm not saying every designated driver. There are lots of designated drivers that don't drink. Even if they normally drink, they don't drink when they're supposed to. Those are the responsible ones. But the problem is there are too many that they get there, they want to have fun. They want to have fun with their friends, but they can't. If there was no place for people to park their cars at a bar, then there would be no, oh, well, I was supposed to be the designated driver, or, oh, hey, I showed up here after work. I thought I was only going to drink a little bit and chat, but I drank more. How are you going to have your car to get in, to get that DUI, if there's nowhere for you to put it? It's going to encourage more people to do rideshare, and it will help decrease the amount of DUIs, the amount of drunken drivers on the road. Now, again, it's a very raw concept. I understand that there may be more to that concept than just the simpleness of it. But the point is, we should be forward thinking. This is one idea of forward thinking that has been happening and should continue to happen. What we don't want is, oh, this is a new concept. Instead of actually trying to figure it out, let's just make everything go back to the way it was. We don't want that. We can't go back to the way it was. That's something we need to understand, people. We cannot go back to the way it was. Too many people now expect the rideshare experience. They expect to get on their phone, know where their ride is, know that they can track themselves, share where they're going, and be able to have that convenience. And on top of that, they expect to get in with a person who acts like a person, not somebody that has just the issues that come up. Unpersonable, doesn't want to help them. It's not their car, so they treat it like you can't do anything in it. People want to get in a car and say, oh, this person takes care of their car. I feel like I'm riding with a friend, or at least an acquaintance. I'm in a clean vehicle. I'm in a vehicle that smells good. I can ask to have the radio. They put things in the back. Just nobody wants the cab experience anymore. And the more that people use rideshare, the less they're going to want to feel like they're just getting into another cog in somebody's business profession. They want to feel like it's very casual. They want to feel like it's convenient, it's comfortable, and it's casual. That's what rideshare gives them. And that's going to keep happening. So instead of trying to push ourselves back into the past, instead of trying to say, hey, let's just be like how cabs are, we need to look at the problem and say, how can we solve this with future thinking, with forward thinking? And now I know someone's going to say, well, guilds have been around forever. I know, you're right. But the thing about that concept, about associations, about guilds, is that you have a group of people that are looking for a modern solution to the problem. They're looking for a modern solution to help make things better for the people that they're there to represent. And while the idea of being represented by others is also an old concept, it is something that works. You provide your guild people with what you want and you work with other drivers. You have that association that you can work with to make things work out for you. All right, that's all I've got for now. Feel free to leave a comment if you're watching this video after the live stream, and don't forget to subscribe. Let me know what you think about the idea of guilds. Let me know what you think about the idea of, ending parking lots at bars. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know what you want for future videos. I've got a whole list sitting over here of things, but I'm willing to adjust the order that I talk about them in future videos. And yeah, don't forget to like, subscribe, and all that kind of good stuff. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you later. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification button.